With just 2 rounds to go, the championship hangs in the balance, and we made our way back over the pond, but this time to Brands Hatch, where we'll set up for our championship finale in wine country in 7 days' time. Welcome along to the doubleheader of Racecraft Rallycross, powered by Next Level Racing, and we kick things off with RX2. Delighted you can join us once again. Our Junior Kanki party joined alongside as ever by Justin Prince and JP. I've been talking a lot about how we've got the heaviest braking zone of all IRX tracks here. Into turn 1, almost 200 kilometers an hour, down through the gears, and then into a very slippery first chicane. However, there's an interesting mix, I think, of drivers that are just trying to close out the season with a victory, and then, of course, drivers trying to make sure that their championship hopes stay alive going into our finale.
Yeah, this penultimate round is going to be very stressful, I think, for some drivers, because we already talked a lot about elevation changes, potentially to play a massive factor today. Just keeping an eye on drivers throughout today's preparations and practice. Drivers are having a hard time making sure they get the jump placed down. Yes, a jump down a hillside to add into the fun. It's almost like throwing back to a video game on a certain console. But in all seriousness, though, today's going to be pressure-filled for those battling for the championship, because we're expecting the intensity level, especially in the heats, to be extremely high in RX2.
And let's talk about how you build up points in these championship fights, because, well, it all starts right now. Qualifying is underway, and drivers very much have to focus up and, well, given the task at hand, try and get pole position, especially if you are one of our championship leaders. For heat races, a couple of drivers go directly through to the main event, handful of drivers go through to the LCQ, and then will find their way on forward, where the majority of the points are on the line in the feature race. That is also slightly longer in terms of length. Let's talk, though, JP, about where we sit with 2 races, 2 rounds left to go. 2 points splits the drivers up front, Thomas Poulsen and then Chris Pusick. Only 1 point splits Trevor Teal and Cody Crosgrove, but while mathematically Teal and Crosgrove might hypothetically be in contention, let's be real, JP. If Poulsen and Pissick can stay consistent and get to a couple more main events, it will just be between the 2 of them.
Especially with Cody Crosgrove announcing earlier today that he is out for today's race due to a family member's illness. So that leaves just Poulsen, Pissick, and Teal. That being said, Teal's been picking up the pace in the past couple weeks. We've seen him get himself some momentum with the calmer momentum, but Poulsen and Pissick have been above and beyond each and every week, and that's going to make it very, extremely difficult even for Teal to chip in unless Poulsen and Pissick make mistakes like they tried to several times in Atlanta.
Talk about the track itself, because we make our way over to the UK for the second time this season. We were up north in Knock Hill for round 2, but here 1.21 miles, just under 2 kilometers in length, mostly tarmac. And while Brands Hatch does have a history of rallycross racing, that's not the layout that we have. Instead, we get an iRacing bespoke design nestled around the regular Grand Prix layout. It's got a Joker lap that's slightly shorter in terms of distance, but JP, because it's so bumpy, because it's actually dirt, it's anywhere between a 1 to maybe 3 second loss if you make a bit of a mistake through there. It's going to be an important factor, though, because it also gives you a little less momentum on your run towards the line and on the run into the braking zone at turn number 1.
It's subtle, but it's enough to where it puts you into pause if there's a lot of traffic, especially when it comes to a racetrack like this. It's a lot more full throttle to that sweeping turn 8 down the front straightaway. But remember, the circle to watch for, that run through turn 3, 4, and 5, going to be the most difficult part of today. Turn 2, keep in mind, does go up track through the dirt before back to the pavement for a lot of these sections today.
There's that look at the Joker lap, the merge as well, the blend back onto the tarmac. Going to be fun to see how that all plays out. Also going to be fun as ever to be able to take a look at a handful of the drivers. Here's a look at the webcams. You have Ian Fisher alongside Chris Pusick on the top, and then Cole Fisher and Thomas Poulsen with all his trophies around him down below. I'm just saying, if you are Cole Fisher, there's a bit of pressure on your shoulders, JP, when you've got a I don't even know what to describe that as, a viewing party sitting behind you.
Yeah, especially with the amount of people that can build up. Oh, look at that. I believe we just got that 5th one of someone's VR headset look. In fact, maybe the GoPro look. Try and see what it looks like with the, I can't tell if that's a curve or if just a full-on wide, ultra-wide. It's going to be interesting, though, which drivers are able to handle the initial starts well today. this might be one of the tracks where it's a little bit calmer for a moment until you realize that it's a 90-degree right-hand turn, hard on the brakes, and, well, we've seen troubles at that point on the starts this season.
Ready to go racing with qualifying in the books. And remember, championship points paid out. And Thomas Poulsen has gone fastest of them all and gained a couple of points to his favor. Let's take you through how they'll line up, though, for the first of our 2 scheduled heats. 3 drivers will advance from each of them, and 5 laps going to be thrown onto the board. Going to be a fascinating run down into the opening corner, especially since it's championship protagonists battling side by side. It'll be Poulsen and Pisuk 1 and 2, Thiel and Dubois 3rd and 4th, with Tobias Holman and then Ian Fisher lining up on row 3. Again, we've got a big field split up into just the 2 heats. So Matthew Morris on debut lines up alongside Corey Boudinot at the back of the 8-car grid. 8 cars fired off down into turn number 1, and as mentioned, JP, 3 drivers make their way directly through to the main event. But I think for Poulsen and Pisuk, they'll also be thinking, how do we maximize the championship points?
It's going to be critical. Make sure you don't have any mistakes in the early going, but better yet, no contact the opening lap. Set up a good run. There's a lot of cars looking for very few spots. It's going to be a big hole shot for some drivers.
You can see on board, they are filed on 2 by 2 on the grid. So you've got some drivers that are going to be all the way on the outside, some drivers fired through on the inside just naturally from that formation, and now just waiting for one driver, Thomas Poulsen, to take to the grid, and we will be ready to go racing. It should be a fun one. Remember, we've got 2 of these heats, then the LCQs, but this is where the championship drivers find themselves stacked up. Great jump from Thomas Poulsen, the championship leader, onto the brakes. Look at Pisuk open up the corner, though. He's gone too deep. Opened it up for him to get swallowed up by the pack as Tobias Holman fires his way on forward, down through the hill. Trevor Thiel challenged by the debutant Matthew Morris, but up towards Druids. It is going to be Thomas Poulsen streaking away at the front of the field.
And this is why he's the leader coming into today when he gets a chance to breathe. Just similar to Chris Pisuk and similar to that what we've seen in particular from your Trevor Thiel. He can run, and he is absolutely blistering quick. No one else seems to have the same pace as him in the second sector. And a lot of people may have to think Joker here, or at least the next few moments. Looks like one does bite.
Look at the aggression on entry, and Trevor Thiel a bit wide, but I think that's maybe a line he wants to run. Pisuk was able to get back in front of Tobias Holman, who does seem to have slowed down a little bit and maybe costing some of these drivers a bit of time. Left side of the screen, the gold crown will light up for the drivers that take their 1 mandatory Joker usage at the end of the lap. So Thiel, Dubois, and Fisher, 3 of 8, taking it on the opening time by.
And right now you can tell these drivers have a lot of space to breathe. It's an interesting version of this, I will say, for Brands Hatch, to be able to have it. Essentially, you're running the short course, but with a dirt track overlay, it seems, but also additions to make it a bit more unique. You talked about the experience in terms of rear world compared to the virtual layout. It's an iRacing layout that kind of utilizes a short version that isn't used as much in the official series on the platform. You have to think about.
Yeah, they did have some great racing back in the day here of Rallycross. I do encourage you, after this is all done, go and search it up on YouTube. You can go and find the clips. Now, I heard some contact in the background. Not quite sure who that was, but as we cross the line, it will be the end of lap 2. 3 still left to go, and look at this. Chris Pisuk putting the pressure on. Thomas Poulsen coming under fire for the race lead. Up towards Druids. One thing you'll watch here is the lines being taken very tight from Poulsen. What you're seeing from Chris Pisuk going a bit wider, getting onto the grip strip effectively, excuse me. That's on the outside of the corner. JP, that's something we saw in the iRacing Rallycross days.
Yeah, but the big thing is, Arjun, I'm not really liking how deep he's sending it, trying to get those grip strips. He's sending it so hard, he can potentially turn Poulsen. He has already nearly turned him once. There's the Joker lap, though. Looks like they're going to offset the lap. When does the leader respond? Pisuk having a lot of bumps, not just the dirt to deal with. That's the major slow up. There's a lot of bumps. It's almost like riding a roller coaster.
And remember, if you are the faster driver on track, you may think that you can use this Joker to effectively undercut, right? You now have track positioning. You're waiting for the driver in front of you, rather, to, as Pisuk slams the wall, gets up on 2 wheels, just using the anti-cut curbs as a tool for rotation as well. But this is where you're now just trying to push and close back up, and again goes out wide into a part of the track that not everyone is willing to use. Sounded like another driver may have hit the wall. Looks like Corey Boudinot, but you know, relatively clean opening heat, JP. But I think we're relatively settled right now, except maybe Trevor Teal, Tobias Holman. Will they fight for the final of our transfer spots?
It's a good question, but there is a solid separation for that Fiesta. There's Poulsen, though. You seen that little jump there? That's part of the reason with the slow up. That takes you off the gas, essentially. Not a surprise, though. Poulsen holds on for the white flag. He might very well be the most comfortable driver on the racetrack when it comes to the feel of this circuit.
One thing to remember as well with that Joker is, even though it does cost you some time in terms of the speed you carry to the line, sometimes you will want to use it on the final lap just because you don't have to carry all the speed into turn number 1. Poulsen elected to cover off Chris Pisuk and not give him the chance to try and push for a second consecutive lap. Now up towards what would be Graham Hill Bend, but instead we have that slight extension ramp off the corner. Chris Pisuk opens it up but doesn't get the opportunity to put the pressure on through the final corners. It's our 2 championship protagonists fighting it out at the front, and they'll both be watching on through Heat 2 and the LCQs. Who will join them in the main event, and who will they have to fight with at the front? It's Poulsen from Pisuk, 1 and 2 as they are in points.
Nicely done again by Poulsen. Lightning quick from the onset and that initial first lap. Just enough, but Holman did hold on for the button transfer and held up by a good second.
Impressive result for him to be able to, after slipping back in the opening couple of laps, be able to hold on to that result. For Matthew Morris, he will be the final driver that reaches the checkered flag, with Corey Boudinot sitting in pit lane right now. And so on debut, Matthew Morris finishes 7th, and he only joined the Discord, as JP mentioned, a couple of hours ago. Only got the go-ahead to go racing a couple of hours ago as well. I can only imagine what is going through his mind. We'll grab a look quickly again at the provisional results for heat number 1, and then we'll get ready to go for the second of the heats. 3 more drivers to make their way through to the main event. Poulsen, Pisuk, and Holman waiting to find out who joins them. The rest have some work to do. Let's go take a look at the starting grid, where Rennie Soten's going to be at the very front. You'll have Andrew Howell alongside Greg Johnson, Alex Otero, Vergaard Olsen, Leah, Casper Thielgaard, and then at the back, Ovin Anderson, Cole Fisher. One thing that we saw on the start, JP, was how willing Chris Pisuk was willing to go around the outside. I wonder if any of these drivers will be as brave.
I think in terms of Chris, he just sent it hard into every single corner. I don't think that works in the long run. For if you want to advance here, you need to be able to get almost back up the corners a touch bit more, hit that inside curbing. After all, you don't have that full run to Paddock Hill Bend like you're on the pavement side. Here we go, though.
Engines rev, and again, 8 will enter, 3 to move on forward. Sotens and Howell on the front row. And here at Brands Hatch, poor start from row 2. Team Watson racing car goes absolutely nowhere. An aggressive sends in response down into the opening corner. Rene Sotens needed to get on the handbrake, he was so deep. And as the Beetle of Thielgaard slips on forward, Subaru pointed in the wrong direction for Vergaard Olsen Leah. It's chaos on the climb up towards Druids.
Just a bit of a squeeze there. Looked like Greg Johnson outside of that. Everyone else doing a solid job to start off the lap. Rene Sotens, no, he was frustrated once seeing what happened at Atlanta. Looking to see what happens with the bounce back. We've already seen one no control machine win a heat. Can it be 2 for 2?
Andrew Howell drops down 2 spots on the start now behind Ovin Anderson, who don't know if you'd necessarily call it getting the whole shot, but he's gained 4. No one jokers on the first lap, which you can do, with the exception of Greg Johnson in that Team Watson racing car. And now you'll see the difference in speed on exit. The Fiesta just blasts on past, and Alex Otero going to swarm through as well. So Greg Johnson loses 3 positions. Not sure if that Joker was such a wise call.
Yeah, especially with, well, there's a lot of smoke up here. But that's the tough thing is, in hindsight, well, you don't know if someone's going to spin it around and land on your nose essentially here and hold you up. This is going to be costly for Greg if he doesn't find a way around Otero, get himself on the transfer spots for now. He already has to know one thing's for certain, though. He's going to get the spot back, at least top 3. It's where will his other competitors end up laying by the time things settle.
And well, I think the smoke was, you see Owen Anderson dropping to the back of the pack. Bit of an aggressive send by Andrew Howell, and that left rear just gets absolutely smashed into the wall. Remember, Race Control will be taking a look at everything post-race and handing out some points penalties. Anderson Jokers, you'll see his name light up, or next to his name, lit up in gold with the crown when he crosses the line, but yet to see the top 3 Jokers just yet. Johnson sits in a very good spot, but Rene Soten's almost 4 seconds clear. JP, he could Joker this time by and still come out in the race lead if he doesn't make a mistake.
I don't know about Johnson for the lead, but I do know for certain top 3, if not top 2, because Howell and Otero just do not have the same pace as Soten's up at the front. At this point, I think Greg's doing what he just needs to do. Just run what he can, just run the pace. Nobody's in a transfer wall. Just wait for them to take the Joker, then try and pounce away, because right now he's in a box. There's one of the 2, so only one more cardboard box to try and punch down. Yeah,
just for clarity, what I meant was Rene Soten's could Joker and still come out in the race lead. Such is his advantage. Here comes Andrew Howell alongside of Greg Johnson, and that was relatively tidy on the inside by the Welshman, but not going to work out. Johnson by Howell. Johnson slips on through, and now we'll just wait to see what Alex Otero does. Will he wait to Joker on the final lap? Is he going to try and frustrate those behind and hope that Johnson and Howell fight in and amongst themselves? Howell gets a much better run on the climb up towards Druids, forces Johnson to go defensive and sends Howell into the gravel trap, not into the dirt where you're meant to run. This is what Otero was hoping to see.
And that's going to help him big time, since he's now finally found his water legs almost, it seems. Remember, we talked about with the Subaru, it gets better over time as the track wears in. Otero just might have found it where it wears in to get that rotation where it needs to be for the white flag lap.
Remember, RX2 were all in fixed setup competition, so these drivers don't have the ability to dial in the cars. You do have that ability in RX1. Cole Fisher's going to have a bit of an issue. Slides to the back. He's tangled up with Vergaard, Olsen, Leah. Don't mind them on the timing tower. Instead, full focus on these drivers in towards the opening corner. Heaviest braking zone across of the entire iRacing Rallycross available tracks. Otero goes wide, though, and now rising up towards Druids. Johnson and Howell closing. Has he made a mistake that will cost him a transfer spot?
Yeah, I was going to say, the point was trying to make is, until this final lap, it seemed like he, as a driver, got into the rhythm. Now, it's almost like the rhythm shot. Oh, Howell shoots himself to the inside.
Johnson made a mistake on the sausage curves. That gave him a bobble. He was able to save it at the expense of a bit of time. That Joker Delta could be as small as 1 second if you're aggressive but precise at the same time. You'll lose out momentum. Otero may not be so worried about Johnson. He'll be thinking, can I get in front of Andrew Howell? Rene Soten's will win this heat and by a comfortable margin. Behind, mad scramble for the final transfer spots, but it is Johnson and Howell by the slimmest of margins. JP, lessons learned to move forward into the LCQs and the main event.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if Howell was going to advance, or better yet, him or Johnson with how it was going to go for a moment, especially with them battling like that. But Otero, that final lap, that initial first sector just destroyed all chances of getting in the transfer.
All drivers across the line, and so now only 2 heats tonight. We're thrown straight into what will end up being 2 LCQs. Just wanted to wait to see if iRacing was going to shuffle things around for us, but again, just confirmations. Soten's didn't even talk about him. So dominant was his victory. Johnson, Howell, able to move on forward, and again, the rest into one of our 2 LCQs, where there will be 5 cars entering, 3 drivers moving forward. So Trevor Thiel, Eric Dubois, Ian Fisher, Matthew Morris, and Corey Boudinot kind of know exactly what is on the line. They're already revving their engines. They're already ready to go. It's still 5 laps of racing. Don't forget that. We don't double the race length until we get to the main event, but they shoot themselves off into turn number 1. And who will get the whole shot here? Thiel's on the inside in that Nitro Cross machine. Big send from the Slapex car. Eric Dubois is going to ride the wall for a second as Thiel slams the wall behind. Morris goes around. Chaos and carnage. And again, JP, we say this week in and week out, all you've got to do with these LCQs is survive.
Matthew Morris is not having a fun debut today compared to some of those this season. But that 34, keep an eye on him because he blew the motor with all the contact in the last heat. And we've seen him make a couple features already. When he's been able to make the races, he's going to be the one to watch with Ian Fisher try to find a way to get the rhythm down.
Now one jokering, at least between these top two, excuse me. Teal decides that, you know what, let me try. Where is it going to feed him out, though? In comparison to that 34 machine, no blown engine. Teal comes out in front, and Ian Fisher going to be up to speed around the outside, but not going to necessarily be able to challenge. There is a look at the Racecraft Academy driver, who, by the way, does want to just make sure that Teal and Josh, what's the rest of that message? Notice me. I hope Teal can see him in the rearview mirror.
I'm curious, is Josh Notice a real person? Serious question. Is he a real person, or is it just notice my name tag today?
It's Trevor Teal and Josh Edmondson. Notice him.
Oh.
Ooh, deep from Corey Boudinot. This costing him some time. Teal slides on through. Now, what will Fisher do? He should do the opposite of what the driver in front does. If Boudinot jokers, he should not. And I think that's why he'll go in and take that longer lap.
Yeah, this is the one thing that's cost Teal is the second there's a car around him, it's almost like things seem to fade back. But that Teal machine, I think you can take him out of the equation by far. You could throw everybody like Dubois into the conversation for the lead, though. Teal just got the edge here. Corey right now just needs to find a way to settle in. Ian Fisher, you can throw him out of the equation unless any of these three step on each other.
It's Joker taken for Dubois. Speed on the side of Teal, giving him the lead back even with all of that fighting. So interesting just sometimes to see how it all plays out. Ian Fisher just has to now keep his wheels on track and avoid slipping up, and surely his chance of spot would be somewhat secure, although the good Joker, Boudinot, can make it very, very interesting, and he will go to the Joker this time by. Does not want to hang around. 2 laps to go at the line. Ian Fisher taking the tarmac the long way around and still trying to build up his speed. Boudinot on the power and now transitioning back onto the tarmac. Fisher going to be forced to the outside. Remember, more speed, more braking for him to do as well. And as the track fares off to the right-hand side, he goes off to the left. Small slip up, but Fisher makes a mistake that sees him lose out in the battle.
I mean, what else can you say there than he wants to be noticed? We definitely noticed a massive mistake. He got a prime opportunity to bounce back from his own mistakes and just said, you know what, let's go and double up on mistakes.
Josh Edmondson's already said he noticed. I hope he didn't notice that. On board with Dubois, who's dropped a full second off the tail end of Trevor Teal, will cross the line this time by to see the white flag in this first of 2 LCQs. We've got one more of these to come up after this, JP, and then we'll know the 12 drivers locked in for the 10 laps of the main event. I'm just saying that all things considered, we haven't seen that much chaos today.
Yeah, kind of at first glance and first thought, a lot of at least the conversation we had last week is everybody's going to have a hard time up and down the hillside, especially up from Druids and leaving Druids. That hasn't happened today. And I think that's basically where people have finally gotten the message, keep it calm and you'll advance. Race like it's the last lap and use everybody's door like a brake pedal, and well, you have a very hard time.
It's interesting as well that there have been a couple of different lines that we've been observing, right? Tarmac doesn't really change in terms of evolution through these IRX events. We do sometimes talk, though, about evolution in terms of the dirt. Wondering what we're going to see when we get to RX1 with their open setups. But here in the first of the 2 LCQs, Trevor Teal, Eric Dubois, Nitro Circus Sim Racing, Slapex Racing advancing on forward. And then a bit of a margin behind, if we're being honest, to Corey Boudinot. But courtesy of that big slip up from Ian Fisher, he doesn't have to push to advance to another main event.
Yep, nicely done as he sends it right through every single advertising board and misses England sign, but that second of the last chance qualifiers could throw a lot of cards up in the air. There's no real certain pick in the next one.
Let's take a look at the results and confirmation of how they finished. Trevor Teal for Nitro Circus first, Dubois and then Boudinot second and third. But let's take a look at the starting grid for the second of the LCQs. Alex Otero, Owen Anderson, Casper Thielgaard, Cole Fisher and Vergaard Olsen-Lea. We saw Olsen-Lea spun around, pointed in the wrong direction on the start of their respective heat. We saw Casper Thielgaard in that very same heat trying to make some moves until they came across the site of the stricken Subaru. So I think it could be anyone's game, and now just waiting for Cole Fisher to take to the marks, and we'll be ready to go. Everyone now sits and watches the lights, and now with some nervous tension building as well, ready to go for LCQ2. And away we go. Watch Thielgaard slams the door shut on Olsen-Lea, but as Alex Otero leads them onto the brakes, Owen Anderson tucked in behind. He makes some contact. It's Fiesta on Subaru action, 3 wide behind. The Beetle then barges Anderson out of the way. RG barges elbows out. You know we're in an LCQ.
Can everybody tell you this? I thought that was a great start for the 55, and even though he has a chance to drive in the top 3 here, Black Flag in Sim, jump start Cole Fisher, it was too good of a jump.
And I wonder now what that does to the mindset there. You can see with the captive audience sitting behind, Olsen-Lea and Anderson trying to knock 7 bells out of one another in this fight for what is now effectively, let's not forget, final transfer spot, given that Thielgaard and Otero somewhat breaking away. Fisher's going to joker, give himself a little bit of clean air for the rest of this race, the rest of the afternoon, evening, if you will, here in Brands Hatch. But back up front as Owen Anderson cars up towards the line, onto the brakes, Alex Otero feeling the pressure from the Beetle.
And we've seen Otero show flashes of good pace once the track wears in. Then as freshies, it seems like he struggles, just like there. The mistakes just continue to cost that machine time. The blue 23, if he didn't make those mistakes, would be hard to pass. Now the Beetle has a chance to be able to show, hey, it's still got speed, it's a Beetle.
Owen Anderson's lost some ground. Vergaard Olsen-Lea is closing up to these top 2, so there's all sorts happening around the facility. Do one of these drivers think it's worthy of splitting things up? Yes, Otero takes off to the Joker. You can see the car dip down on entry. Should emerge in front, I would assume, of Vergaard Olsen-Lea, albeit with a bit of a battle off into the opening corner. A bit more speed on the part of the 226, and you can see that speed being shoveled off to the outside as Otero covers the inside line. 2 wheels in the grass for Lea there, onto the brakes. He gets, let's be honest, ran out of room, but also tried to go for a gap that no longer was existing. Otero holds on, all as Thielgaard builds up his gap.
Yeah, this is getting a little bit nerve-wracking for some of the drivers, though, outside the bubble. But I think Anderson's had some problems yet again. We just seen him drop down the pylon. Outside of that, quite simply, if you're in the top 3, just try and get the experience down. Lea in particular, I think, needs to get it down in after the rough heat race, and just seems to be struggling compared to Otero. Look at that boost difference just on how he's handling some of these corners. And then you have time for the Joker jump, where it's like dirt road, country dirt roads in the middle of Mountyside.
Here comes the Joker merge though for Casper Thielgaard, with Alex Otero already up to speed, long way around, and a bit more room being given by the Beetle, the no control machine, trying to slam the door shut down the hill on the apex. And I gotta say, well judged from both drivers. 2 laps still left to go though, climbing up towards Druids. As the race goes on as well, the dirt gets slung around this corner such that grip strip may be a little less effective. However, neither driver necessarily looking for it as they head down the hill into Graham Hill Bend. 1 lap to go next time by.
Not to kind of put the pin to the balloon for the rest of the way. Anderson confirmed black flag. So you have the people outside the bubble with black flags. Well, what can you say? Just don't crash the car.
Riding with the 23. Is he going to want to try and make a move on this final lap? Let's ride on board into the heaviest braking zone, though, of the season.
Daryl took it very cautious, though.
And
didn't want to risk any contact.
As much as it is a heavy braking zone, JP, what do you notice looking at that gear indicator? Not really going any lower than third gear, not wanting to spin up the rear tires too much.
Yeah, using a lot of speed, but also in some of these areas, the reason for no lower than third is if you go down to first and second gear, you're having too much torque possibly for the dirt sections, causing you to almost spin around like you're in a mud pile or in a mud puddle. But for these other sections, keep the higher torque, lower RPM band, have a bit more better rotation once you have to slam back onto the gas here in this car.
These cars are such rocket ships as well, right? 0 to 60, 0 to 100, depending on your units in, well, about 2-3 seconds, depending on how aggressive you are on power. Casper Thielgaard, that Beetle looking very strong here today, wins the second of the LCQs, advances along with Vergaard Olsen Leah as we end up with two drivers now we'll be watching on in the main event, Cole Fisher and Ovin Anderson. It means we'll get a couple of moments between us finishing up this LCQ and going racing for the main event, where 12 drivers, of course, are now ready to go. Let's take a look at those results. No Control advancing yet another driver. They'll be very happy with how things have gone so far for them today, although for Otero and Leah starting towards the back of the main event, they've still got some work to do. Fisher and Anderson, unfortunately done. As mentioned, main event time coming up next. 10 laps of RX2 action. Don't go anywhere on RaceSpotTV. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Brands Hatch and to Racecraft's Rallycross, presented by Next Level Racing. Our Junior Kanki party still alongside of Justin Prince and now ready to go for the main event. JP, it's been a fascinating one so far. We've seen some interesting Joker approaches, some interesting on-track excursions. What do you think we're in for with, let's not forget, two championship drivers at the front trying to stay out of trouble?
I think we're expecting Chris to absolutely lunge it into the first corner because he's done that every single corner today. But in all seriousness, once again, I'm expecting No Control to potentially have control of this race. Poulsen and Sultans both have looked extremely comfortable. 3 of the 4 total races, including the LCQs, have been won by a No Control car. I think that team has made it clear they put in the prep work to get a feel of the setup and get themselves ready to try and battle for a feature win today.
Let's take a look at the starting grid where championship favorites and protagonists going to be battling into the opening corner in line with one another. Thomas Poulsen in front of Chris Pissock, but Rene Sotens, Greg Johnson in and amongst them as well on that run down to turn 1. Tobias Holman, Andrew Howell, the rest of the drivers that advanced directly from a heat race, while Trevor Teal, Casper Thielgaard, Eric Dubois, Alex Otero, and then Corey Boudinot and Vergaard Olsen Leah at the back of the 12-car grid. I can only imagine what the likes of Thomas Poulsen are thinking about. Remember, we've got 1 week to go after this. We head off to wine country, where our championship are likely to be determined. You say Chris Pissock's been aggressive so far. The lights will build. Where does his aggression take him as we get ready to go for the main event of RX2 here at Brands Hatch for Racecraft Rallycross, powered by Next Level Racing? A good even start between a couple of the machines at the front. Chris Pissock doesn't get the chance to even make his aggressive send. He'll open up the corner instead. Contact behind sends Eric Dubois off into the kitty litter. Pissock still not able to make his way on forward. So Thomas Poulsen going to lead as Rene Sotens holds up Chris Pissock in the battle up towards Druids.
Yeah, just not a lot of space for Chris to work. That's why he's forced up to the high side. Near contact that looped around. Good recovery off to the contact for Holman. But right now, this is back to what we've seen in the heat races. Once the no control cars get themselves through the launch, they are just lightning fast and able to just run away in Sector 2.
This is where, as well, some drivers may think, let's go Joker and let's get ourselves out of this long pack. Remember, slightly longer lap here on the inside. Greg Johnson leads, Trevor Thiel, and might be Vergaard Olsen Leah. Couldn't quite see the color on the car, but already 1 full second at the front. Thomas Paulson looking very, very comfortable. Chris Pissock going to see Rennie Soten's on the handbrake momentarily. Not sure how many drivers will lock the rear tires up to spin the car around. Does seem to have been some drama because Greg Johnson scored as our race leader. I thought we had gotten through an opening lap without too much chaos, JP.
Well, I think at this point, though, remember, you still have Chris in the box. And what can you say? What's the description about cats being in a box? They don't like being in boxes. But also, talking about the Joker run, Greg Johnson takes the good transition out from the Joker, but just a little bit too wide for the 23, and yet again a mistake. And
the first flip added onto our counter, and in a quite unexpected way, back with the live pictures. Interesting that Chris Pissock decides, you know what, let's Joker. Casper Thielgaard on the outside, going to take advantage, cycle 4th to 4th position. But, oh, there's the lunge, there's the aggression that JP's been mentioning. Not willing to hang around, but I think that's the sign of a driver that recognizes where aggression needs to be handed out in fighting for a championship, and when sometimes you need to be a little bit smarter. He's taken his Joker, JP, and now we'll close to the back of Tobias Holman.
Yeah, now the focus is quite simple. Get geared up, get ready to go. Chris has been an interesting one to keep an eye on today. It doesn't seem like the track matches his skill set, and he's been one that's been streaky in terms of consistency. Right now, that streakiness is trending towards a struggle bus and struggling to turn his Subaru around the racetrack. Just taking a look right here. You're just trying to get an arc down, trying to almost get an apex diamond off, but even that just slows him up too much compared to the others who keep a more wider exit and nowhere to be better on the diamond.
Rennie Sotens has jokered, and so he comes out in front of Holman, who now loses a bit more time. So therefore does Chris Pissock. This exactly what Thomas Paulson, your race leader, was wanting to see. We're on again to the 4th of 10 laps. The longest of our races is the main event, and apparently Chris Pissock thinks there's enough grip out there on the outside of Druid that he's going to try and find it as the no gets sky high on that run through the jump. Slightly further behind, Corey Boudinot, Andrew Howell, both having jokered, both knocking down the door to try and pass one another.
Just like that, though, Corey's having one of his better runs in the feature, at least this season. Just trying to keep it clean and keep the kitty at the side of his car from being hit. Yes, it takes a while for people to notice, but there is a cat on the car.
So for a moment there that Andrew Howell almost ran into the back, but then had to back out of things. Here comes Tobias Holman having jokered to the outside of your championship contending driver, Chris Pissock, who now has to slide his way back down through the chicane. Holman bangs down the inside wall, almost flips over his car on the inside curb. What an interesting sequence. All as only 2 drivers yet to have jokered, JP. Casper Thielgaard, Thomas Paulson, and we're not even halfway through this race.
And 2 more of the no control esports machines. They do have the team boss that did take the Joker. Honestly, Thomas Paulson looks to be very comfortable for big points here. He's been like this all race so far, and all day so far. Outscoring Chris in every single possibility so far. He might be in a decent position for the championship next time out. And
I always hate doing math in championships because, well, never trust a commentator's math, but with the maximum number of points that you can get from any particular, event here, with qualifying heat and feature race points added up being 29, there's no chance that Paulson's going to win the championship here, but could leave himself in a very comfortable positions. No control, definitely did their practice, figured out how this fixed setup drives, because remember, they've got the exact same Subaru in terms of its handling characteristics as Chris has got underneath his own control as well, JP. So with 4 laps to go at the line, it's all now just down to the raw speed, the raw ability to get the speed from the car.
Yeah, at the very least, I think Chris can get a top 3. That's not out of the question. It's just how he does it. And I think Corey may have just been in the car. And Tobias has a black flag, so Chris definitely now has himself a top 3 because the car behind will not be top 4.
How did Tobias Holman get a black flag? He must have taken a quote-unquote a cut course and then not served the slowdown or something, because I can't quite fathom how you get a slowdown. And so now he's turning it into a drift session, I think.
Yeah, that's a curious point. That's the second time we've seen specifically a Fiesta do it. I'm almost wondering if it's that chicane in turn 2 and 3. A lot of drivers are taking it over top the sausage curbs. And remember, we've already seen tracks like Atlanta where drivers cut that part of the course. And we've seen drivers pick up slowdowns because of it. He just got another one, I think.
It is definitely that part of the track that is the problem spot. The question really is why didn't he serve the slowdown in time? Because he had enough of a margin. He could have still potentially had 4th position. Now, that penalty that iRacing will give him effectively going to drop him down to the tail end of the lead lap. So he's got Kasper Thielgaard behind, who is still yet to joker, by the way, JP. So, you know, Vergaard, Olsen, Leo fighting now effectively 4th and 5th position with the Beetle.
And the funny thing is, we had all this talk before the season about the Fiesta. We've had all this talk, of course, all year about the Subaru. And then people forget, oh, there's a 3rd car instead of the Beetle. And the kind of the thought process is, what did Herbie do in terms of the speed, but also just why the trends go that way? It was one of the better cars and one of the more preferred cars, in fact, in terms of the heyday. You'd have to argue for the Rallycross side on iRacing a couple years ago.
It's one of the free cars available for anyone to jump into, but Thielgaard makes a mess. No control, unfortunately, on the Joker entry for the no control machine, and that is going to be Leah around the outside, forward to 5th, and, well, will eventually end up being 4th, let's not forget, when Tobias Holman takes that penalty. Back up front, Thomas Poulsen's opening up this advantage, and JP, it's always ominous when you have a driver that looks comfortable, starts winning races when you're talking about championships. We go to Sonoma next time out, which is also known for its share of chaos. The start zone is called the bowling alley for good reason. What do you think this does for the confidence, though, of Poulsen as Kasper Thielgaard back up to 5th?
For Poulsen, extreme confidence to be able to have a buffer, at least a few spots going into the finale. I think for Chris, better get your bowling shoes ready, or at the very least, I think that might be a thought. You don't want to end up burning any enemies by accidentally rolling your bowling ball into somebody else's alley, if you get what I mean.
Definitely, and I'm hoping we don't have too much chaos next week. We didn't have much chaos on the starts into turn 1 this time, so quite impressed, as much as I was maybe, you know, being a doomsayer a week ago, that the drivers have been able to keep it clean for the most part. The exception have been basically after the initial race starts, and this might be side by side down here through turns 2 and 3, and Leah gets sent out wide by Andrew Howell. He was already a little bit off track, and now Trevor Teal comes through, and both cars get tangled up. It's been that sort of day for a couple of these drivers, but up front and getting ready to celebrate for the 3rd time this season, a championship advantage going into wine country. Will he be spraying the sparkling wine? It's a photo finish side by side for no control, and Thomas Poulsen, Rene Soten stand on top here at Brands Hatch.
Team domination. What else can you say? A team 1, 2, and potentially 5 if things hold. Don't wreck your teammate amidst celebration. That's the kind of argument, but Thomas Poulsen and Rene Soten have proven they've figured out not just this track, but how the fixed setup flows to be able to dominate like that from the onset.
Gotta say again, props to these drivers for keeping it clean, and I hope they haven't set our expectations a bit too high for RX1 still to come. Final drivers make their way to the line. We'll grab a look at the race results, chat to your race winner, and maybe a couple of other drivers as well, and then flip the page on over to the RX1. Here's a look, though, at no control. 1, 2, 4 at the end of the day, with Poulsen, Sotens, and then Chris Pisuk in third. And again, for Poulsen and Pisuk in terms of championship storylines, every single session, Thomas Poulsen outscores his main rival, exactly what he wanted to do. It will be Casper Theogard's Beetle scored fourth. What a drive for him, with Andrew Howell behind, Vergaard, Olsen, Leah, Alex Otero, and then Trevor Thiel, Eric Dubois, and Corey Boudinot all scored on the lead lap. Same can be said for Greg Johnson. Unfortunately, Holman's penalty scores him effectively 2 laps down and drops him to the very tail end of the field. Not sure if we're going to get the chance to catch up with everybody in the podium spots, but at least for the time being, let's see if we can catch up with Chris Pisuk after what was a very well-fought third-place finish. Chris, talk to us about how you feel. Unfortunately, Thomas just seemed to have another gear today and outscored you in every single session.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it didn't go to plan as I hoped. But yeah, well done to the guys. They played like pretty good teamwork in the feature. So I didn't have chance to pass René. And in the meantime, I damaged my steering wheel, so 8 laps I finished like that, and it was crazy. But still, championship is not over, so we'll see you next week.
Next week we'll go to Sonoma. We were just talking about how starts there can be quite chaotic. What do you think about that track? How do you think your chances will be in our championship showdown?
I don't really know, because it's quite new for me, the Rallycross in iRacing. So, but yeah, I did a couple laps, and yeah, it's definitely it's a fast track, and Joker will be tricky, and yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, it goes to plan next week.
You had some support, by the way, in the chat, so you had some people cheering you on, and I'm sure they'll cheer you on in a week's time. Best of luck in our season finale, and can't wait to see how it goes for you, Chris.
Cheers, guys.
Always great to be able to catch up with the drivers. Let's see if we can catch up now as well with Thomas Poulsen. Thomas, it was no control 1-2, but plenty of control at the front for you. Didn't put a foot wrong today. How confident did you feel?
For this round, I needed to do a lot of practice. So for this one, I was a bit nervous, but I had the confidence in it, and we put a team strategy from the start before the race, and it lasted all the way.
I like to hear the strategy actually talked about before we got underway. You, of course, have now 3 wins in 5 races. Going into the season finale, you've got the points lead, but it's Sonoma. How do you feel about your championship chances? What do you need to do in your mind in the next week to get ready to go?
During the next week, I need to practice as much as I did for this one. It clearly paid off. I did a lot of starting practice. Hope that could be seen. And this I will do for the next round, and hopefully this will pay out, and yeah, hopefully the team strategy will be just as good.
You say you did some start practice. You know that next week we start in what is colloquially known as the bowling alley. Are you ready for the chaos that may bring?
We will take everything we can, and as we said in the first, I think it was the first lap, the first race of the season, you don't know what's coming, you just gotta do your best.
Always glad to chat with Thomas Poulsen, victorious here in our penultimate round of the championship in JP. Wine Country, one of the favorites of many drivers, and I'm looking forward to it. There's a look at the run through the bowling alley on the start. It should be fascinating to see how the drivers get on.
Yeah, and in turn, I think these drivers are going to have a challenge. I've seen drivers, well, crash themselves out of the way in terms of lap traffic before. In terms of this track as a whole, it takes a lot of rhythm, and it's one of those circuits where you need to have that preparation down. I know how generic that may sound, but it's quite simple. You don't have the feel on where your car is going to land on the jumps. You don't have that feel on how tight it is, especially where the short chute is in the rear-wheel NASCAR circuit here at Sonoma. You're going to have a very, very, very busy time.
And I like that, you know, there's a couple of different dynamic changes in terms of the elevation at Sonoma, and that's why personally it's one of my favorite to drive. As a race, I'm not such a fan just because I'm not so good at it. Drivers have to be very, very precise to find the lines, and what has been a short but sweet Racecraft Rallycross powered by Next Level Racing campaign. Just one more round for these RX2 drivers to come, and of course, it will be in a week's time from Sonoma. But we've still got the drivers in RX1, open setups, even higher iRatings, and even more experience. Don't go anywhere on RaceSpotTV. The action continues next. Time to get strapped in for part 2 of the doubleheader. We land back at Brands Hatch, but this time with open setups and some of the best in the iRacing universe at mastering the dirt. Welcome along to Racecraft Rallycross, powered by Next Level Racing and its RX1 category. Delighted you can join myself, Arjuna Kankipati, still alongside of Justin Prince as we get set to unleash these machines. And JP, one driver's been dominant in the last, feels like almost 2 or 3 years now at this point. Jacob Rafoss continues to be the dominant force in the world of RX1. But last time out at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, we saw a great race and not Jacob Rafoss domination up towards the front. He still got the championship lead, but I think there's plenty of intrigue heading into this round of the season.
Especially to see which drivers are going to be able to pick up some tempo to close out the campaign. I think Rafoss, you could argue, can be just about a lock today, depending on what happens. But McFarlane has been learning and learning quickly in that respective camp. He's the one wild card. You throw in everybody else, chance for some splash top threes, but right now Rafoss is in his own driver's seat to be able to control the destiny of his championship.
If you're just joining us for the first time, well, let's just remind you about this track in particular, because Brands Hatch has got a long lineage of rallycross racing, albeit here on iRacing we have a bespoke layout designed by iRacing, catered and contoured around the existing layout that we have. It's the heaviest braking zone of all iRacing rallycross tracks at turn number 1, and then down through 2 and 3 you rise up to Druids, where there's a grip strip on the outside to launch you over the jump and down into Graham Hill Bend. Joker is very bumpy, and JP, we've seen some drivers make some mistakes. What has stood out to you though from the drivers in RX2 that we should be watching here for RX1?
I think the main thing that stands out to me is the flow from turn 1 to 3 is such a critical part of the lap, because that's where I think all the slowdowns are coming in. But better yet, a lot of drivers have either hit that wall coming through to turn 2 or end up having to cut through turn 3 across the sausage curbs and not even realize they have a slowdown penalty before they get to Druids. That section right there is going to be the more difficult one and is the tone setter for the entire second half to 3/4 of the final part of the lap. And from there on out, it's down to raw pace. In other words, what I'm expecting, you got to get 1, 2, and 3, and 4 down. If you don't have the first 4 corners down, Arjuna, you're going to be towards the back and struggling by the end.
It's a very different sort of a track, I think, as well, to what we have for our season finale at Sonoma, which is a lot more flowing. This is a bit more stop and start, I think, in some ways, albeit still has those sections that you do need to just roll that momentum through. That's a look at the jump, where fortunately we haven't seen too much trouble so far today, hoping that streak continues as the drivers work their way through what will again be 2 heats, 2 LCQs, and then the 10-lap main event. You take a look at the Racecraft race analysis, the 5-lap heats, 5-lap LCQs, the 10-lap feature. One thing in RX1 that the drivers contend with, JP, isn't just the slightly reduced incident limit, open setup as well, but the fact that because they've only got 6x on the incident limit, realistically, you can only get away with a couple of really bad car contacts.
Yeah, you don't want to be that driver to pick up any contact, first of all, but second, when it comes to this track, we already seen a lot of drivers pick up simple 2x's from simple hits to the wall today. I think the edge is really there in terms of keeping it clean, but it's not going to be perfect. I can already tell you right now, some top drivers have already had troubles keeping the car clean and qualifying, Arjuna, and that's solo car.
Yeah, this is as well where the drivers get the chance to really just focus on getting the most from the track. Maybe not running the same lines that they would when they go racing with one another, but that's definitely something to keep in mind. 14 times on the board, just Rene Wegner, Josh Fox yet to actually benchmark themselves against the rest of the field. Maybe no surprise. See Jacob Rafros at the top, and, well, he just bailed from what is a qualifying attempt, but is already with a 53.822 right at the top. Still no paint scheme for the Williams Esports driver of Josh Fox, but here we go, starting what will be his final timed attempt. Let's ride around with previous race winner. Just look how precise he is, JP, not using too much of that curb and then running all the way to the wall and chucking the car into Druid and using that grip that I was talking about.
Yeah, and there's that jump I was talking about down the hillside. It's not as unpredictable compared to, say, some of the dirt-made jumps, but it is pretty big of a challenge. But it also damages the car pretty easily, I've noticed. Subaru, Josh didn't get any time in. Josh did not put a time in. He's dead last for Heat 1.
He'll have a lot of work to do as the time just ran out on him in the qualifying session. The importance of making sure you're represented on the board, well, it's never been more clear, but it is going to be 1 and 2 in points. Rafos and McFarl in front of the first heat, and Josh Edmondson will line up behind as Nitro Circus Sim Racing teammate Jacob Rafos, and then Yuka Pakalo alongside after no control domination in RX2. Zach Blanche for Excalibur Esports is alongside Sean Winkler in the Racecraft 720, and then back to Russell Peterson, who is alongside of Josh Fox. As mentioned, no time on the board, and JP, that's going to be somewhat stressful. The only thing that maybe you'll take some solace from is, again, much like we saw in RX2, 3 drivers advance from each of these heats.
Yeah, and that puts a bit more pressure for Fox, but it's not impossible. That being said, it's to the 2-heat format, as you said, so the LCQs, I think, are going to be the more stressful part yet again today. It's just a matter of how you get the jump down. But better yet, how do these drivers play the aggression compared to the fixed side of the setup card, compared to what we see with the open side? And I'm curious more so, too, who gets that Joker dialed in and has a bit more handling for that section. The fixed setup seemed to have a hard time in that Joker lap.
Yeah, I wonder who is really going to be dialing their car in for each individual part of the race that we've got in front of us. Just waiting now for the final car to hit the grid, and we will be ready to go. You can see Josh Fox all the way at the back has got some work to do. And here come the engines, here come the lights. As RX1 takes center stage at Brands Hatch, it's the first of 2 heats that gets underway. Fox not going to force the issue behind. Rafos is going to be clear. Does McFarlane dive to his inside? Answer is no. Onto the brakes, tidy through. And watch Fox. He'll switch back underneath. Already gained 2 spots. Gets a little bit checked up though behind Winkler. More contact now as he gets shoved out wide by Pakala. But that is 3 positions gained already for Josh Fox. Main problem is top 3 scampering away with those transfer positions.
Hey, it worked out perfect for Fox, though. Able to already battle for the transfers just about. And it's pretty clear, even if you look at the eye test, Fox is just much quicker through the RPMs right now. He just blew by the node control machine like they were standing still.
Cannot Joker, though, this time by, and I'm not surprised to see anyone at the front decide that it's not worth the risk either end of this opening lap. Remember, 5 laps of racing. Rafos already going to be 1 second clear. Jacob was 6/10 or so clear in qualifying, JP. A remarkable margin. He's showing that in race speed as well.
Just seems so composed and is very minimally driving around on some of the drift. Look at Edmondson for comparison. Edmondson's clipping the wall. That's how close the margin is first. But second, he's one of those who's putting in a lot of over-rotate. Another thing I've noticed, though, on this side of the car, they're not afraid to say, oh, there's kitty litter outside the main dirt and Druids. I'm going to use that, too, to exit the corner. Yeah,
it's, again, that grip strip, just trying to find whatever advantage they can. There's a couple of different tracks that different drivers have found. We won't call them nefarious ways, but weird ways, let's say. Both McFarlane and Edmondson decide to Joker. I wonder if that was because Josh Fox was going a bit slowly. He now is going to take around the normal lap, though, to use his speed past Edmondson and now maybe frustrate just a little bit. He's got some work to do, but JP, he's at least inserting himself into the mix.
I think by the end of things, though, he's going to be, at the very least, around the edge of the top 3, if not in the 3rd position. Just not liking what I've seen with Edmondson in terms of the back half of the lap, and Fox has been lightning fast. Just keeping an eye on the track times. Running 54.2 last time. He is just a 10th off the leader. Everybody else with the Joker in the 56-second brackets. But without the Joker, some of them are 2 seconds off the pace compared to Rafos and Fox right now.
Yeah, but again, that's like being compared to Michael Jordan when you're playing a game of pickup basketball. I feel like in some ways, not trying to denigrate anyone. It's just, you know, that's how strong these drivers are and how much experience they have. Now, Jacob's got no company behind, and for the first time ever, doesn't look like he's about to murder me by reaching out from the camera and taking my soul. There's the look of focus, the look of intensity is down through the opening couple of corners he slides.
I think it's straight up the angle, but I think the reason Rafos is fine with this is I think he wants that to be his image, to be the demon within the car.
Oh, I mean, he is a little demon indeed. I mean, out on track, it's just been unstoppable in so many different ways. Behind, remember, the Joker Delta can be as short as around 1.3 odd seconds. So Josh Fox doing just enough in some ways to hold up Edmondson initially, and now we jump on board with that Nitro Circus sim racing machine. Fox not going to Joker, he'll save that for the final lap of the race, and that's going to what I was talking about in RX2, where because you have a shorter run to the line instead of going to turn 1, Justin, by using the Joker on the final lap, you actually lose overall a little less time.
Just a little bit, yeah, I agree, but I still think it's going to be a little bit close on that regard. Looking at the margin, I think it's going to be a drag race based on the distance. Fox needs just a couple more tenths, I think, of a buffer this lap, and then it should be good.
Out wide they go. It's quite interesting to see how precise they sometimes are as well with that run through. Up front, Jacob Rafos going to lead. Himself and Josh Fox down towards the Joker. Let's watch this entry. And look how he was rotating the car mid-air on entry, uses the bumps to help set the car up, and then so tight on the exit. That's a driver in full control. There comes Josh Fox. Has he done enough? Where is Josh Edmondson? Drag race to the line. Don't even think you need to get the cameras out. What a display from Josh Fox. To the back to a transfer spot, and now not having to stress through the LCQs.
Nicely done for Fox. I think he's going to be a contender for back-to-back wins, possibly. That car is a rocket. It's just the curious thought of how he manages in the battle in the future to try and keep toe-to-toe with Rafos.
And again, remember, we've only got 2 of these heats, so the races are going to come at us quite rapid fire. So look at the results from that first heat. Get ready to go for heat number 2, where the Nitro Circus Sim Racing team, KES Industries, and Williams Esports drivers all going to be watching and waiting to see who joins them. Everyone else having to go through an LCQ where They may have Joni Palineva, Kieran Leiflander, Robbie Kirtley, Matthew Lindy, Istvan Titz, Lindsay Hobbs, or potentially Stead Miller or Rene Wegner in contention. The one thing that we know is they're already revving their engines, are already ready to go. As mentioned, this is fast, frenetic rallycross racing, and was that a jump start from Robbie Kirtley? If it wasn't, it was the greatest reaction you have ever seen. Onto the brakes, into the opening corner. Long way around, may pay dividends there, but Joni Palineva going to hold on from Kieran Leiflander as they rise up towards Druids.
And it almost falls back to the trend of no control, trying to maintain control. Looks to be one of those types of races and one of those tracks in general that seems to be a team favorite. But Lindsay Hobbs just got pinballed into the wall.
And the first time we've had drama over the jump. Matthew Lindy in the KES Industries car, cattywampus for a sec, almost got turned then by Robbie Kirtley. Who decides, let me Joker get out of trouble this first time by? I was thinking maybe Robbie Kirtley, and indeed, he'll dive his way on in. That was very, very aggressive on the entry. Don't think that was exactly what he was planning.
Yeah, I think part of that, though, is he's already got the damage from the jump. Not going to be too bad, but better yet, though, may as well get in space. He already seen one car get punted ahead. May as well say, you know what? I'm going to get away from this Hornet's Nest for a little bit. Let the Hornet's Nest sting themselves, and he's got to slow down.
And hopefully he clears it and doesn't end up with a black flag, as we were talking about slightly earlier. These drivers, a little less coordinated in how wide they're all running. Some drivers clearly not thinking the grip strip is worth their time as they rise back up towards that left-hand hairpin that brings them back onto the regular racing facility. Let's go take a look at the replay, JP. The first time we had a car having issues over the jump.
Yeah, and Lindsay Hobbs looks settled in, middle of the line. Right there, though, remember we talked about control of your car and knowing where it's going to land. In this case, Hobbs just got hit by somebody that entered the jump crooked, flew through the air in terms of that towards him, doored him out of the way.
The nature of rallycross as well, right, is it's so short that you don't necessarily always get a chance to fight back from that. Lindsay Hobbs, 17 seconds adrift, will have to go through the LCQs. That was both Joni Palineva and Kieran Leiflander using copious amounts of the inside curb through turns 2 and 3. It's still only around half a second between them. Bit of an issue behind as Rene Wegner pointed in the wrong direction, but I feel as though battle for the final step on the podium in this heat, which is really a transfer spot, JP. Matthew Lindy not looking that comfortable here today.
Yeah, Tietz in particular seems to be starting to get himself very comfortable with the feel of this track late. Looks to be just dialed in terms of the mark in the AM Racing Team machine. Just keep an eye on that on corner exits right now and the grip for later on in these final 2 laps.
Seeing jokers up front, so Joni Palineva deciding not to wait till the final lap to take his run down that bumpy lane. That was very locked up and crossed up from the 22 machine. Barges. Matthew Lindy's KES Industries car out of the way, and race control will take a look at that after the race. That's no consolation though for the number 3.
Tietz absolutely missed his braking board with how much he sent it in. Just turned around the car, said, I've got to go, I've got to go. I don't mean this, but I've got to go. I like transfer, I've got to go. Lindy's not going to be happy, and he's very likely, as a result, might still have a shot here, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see him be one of your top drivers in the LCQ.
He's just not looking that smooth, at least compared to what we were seeing from the likes of Rafos Fox and even McFarlane, of course. Let's not forget him in his KES Industries car. So clearly that team definitely has got an understanding of what they need to do. Maybe just not being all totally locked in. Here comes the final lap, though. Kieran Leiflander leads from Joni Palineva. Watch him through the opening section. Just be very, very tidy, not over-rotating the car. Just being very, very confident in the movements. And JP, between these two, they haven't fought too hard, haven't put a foot wrong either, and now we'll have to try and figure out how to fight with the likes of Rafos, McFarlane, and Fox in those 10 laps of main event racing.
I've wondered, much cleaner compared to Atlanta, where everybody got acquainted to the side colors on his car. But if he can get the run like this, he can be in the conversation, I think, for top half of the feature. Just last week, he did it for all the wrong reasons. This week, he's doing it for the very clean reasons, even though he's going to Lose a spot into Paladeva.
Yeah, that's the drag race to the line where Joni Palaneva gets the spot back. Even with the slightly shorter distance was just enough. Not the greatest, I think, Joker there either for the Kieran Leiflander driven number 20. Here comes the rest of the field though. Remember, fast, frenetic rallycross racing, and unfortunately no mannequins here dropping off from any stanchions to scare the drivers, but Joni Palaneva, Kieran Leiflander not needing to be scared off, and unfortunately for Matthew Lindy being turfed out wide, finds himself not moving forward. A look at the results, no control, and then Leiflander and Esteban Titz all advancing. Matthew Lindy, Robbie Kirtley, Stead Miller and Lindsay Hobbs, the Excalibur Esports pair, and Renee Wegner spots in LCQs left to come. Let's take a look at the grid though, because they're already getting gridded up, and it's one monster grid that we can take a look at, because they have all been shuffled into one sole LCQ, 10 cars to enter, and remarkably 6 to move on forward. Edmondson, Lindy, Pakula, Kirtley, Peterson, Miller, your front 6, and then Blanche, Hobbs, Winkler, and Wegner, the drivers that technically would have some work to do. We don't usually see this many cars out on track until the main event. JP, we're in for some chaos into turn number 1.
I think we're in for carnage-filled action. Here we go.
Oh, Kirtley again just seems to have the jump on the numbers, knows when to get the launch, but 3 wide around the outside. Don't tell me he'll try and make that happen. Matthew Lindy going to get compromised in through the opening corner, so Edmondson will lead. Lindy second, and then Pakula third. Zach Blanche has gone up to 4th, and poor Robbie Kirtley, from fighting for the race lead, has gone down to the back of the pack.
It's kind of wild seeing the thought process here in the car, because the mindset outside the car is bottom 4, go home, right? All you have to do is do not crash. Apparently, that is, again, the impossible challenge to make sure you have a clean start. For Kirtley, a frustrating start indeed, but could have been avoidable. Just had to find a hole, and unfortunately didn't get a hole, and trying to keep it side by side, and that's what happens. 3 wide first lap.
Main problem, I think, here with so many cars is 10 drivers, 5 laps, all needing to take the Joker. And no matter how you shuffle it, you're going probably end up with a little bit of traffic. So down out through the opening sector, they will fly once more. Edmondson from Lindy, Pakula, then Blanche. 4 cars split by 1.1 seconds. Up through Druids, they will climb. It is mostly Subarus at the front, but great to see at least one Fiesta. Lindy a little bit wide as we jump on board with Zach Blanche.
Just like the last race, using the 3rd gear at the lowest point, keep the torque band in the right spot, prevent tire spin. Now for Blanche, he's had an up and down season, give him credit. He's got good pace. It's just at times, when the switch is flipped away from the Fiesta and the Subarus have the switch turn on, usually the Subarus treat him, well, like he is not a Subaru.
Couple of cars jokering down the back of the pack, so Robbie Kirtley, left side, going to be illuminated in gold, along now with Lindsay Hobbs and Russell Peterson. This all down, though, at the very back of the pack. Sean Winkler, Renee Wegner fighting in and amongst one another. Those in front may start feeling a bit more comfortable with their spots in the main event. This, though, is where they'll start to be a bit more stressed. Could it be 6 cars effectively, JP, fighting for just 2 transfer spots?
That's a great question in terms of that. I know the 6 spots is comfortable, but Renee in particular is very streaky. Throughout the season, he's been streaky. On the track, he's been streaky. Sean Winkler, well, at this point, he's been up, down, sideways, upside down, just about every single direction. In other words, I'm quite honestly saying I'm not really confident that we're going to see even Blanche hold on, let alone Winkler, in terms of your top 6, with how it's about to shake down and everyone layered on top of each other, and Peterson looking to bounce back from his own Joker.
Oh, Lindy gets a bit upset there, and I'm a bit surprised that Zach Blanche jokered if it was that close in terms of the merge, because now he will send Winkler into the corner. Wegner has a half spin, though, of his own behind, driving in the wrong direction, resetting back to pit lane. One car discounted from the mix, and we'll come to see the white flag next time by. Bit more argy-bargy, and now Lindsay Hobbs, Robbie Kirtley, and Stead Miller all piling into one another.
And what do I have to say other than do not crash is near impossible, apparently. 3-4 different drivers at the toe. For the final lap here, though, where is Russell Peterson? That's the huge question.
He is about 2 and a bit seconds behind, but I think now everyone with the exception of Josh Edmondson has jokered. So as long as drivers stay within the confines of the track as designed, again, we've got no white lines as we would on a road course per se, or even on an oval, we should be okay. But Blanche, Winkler want to fight in and amongst one another. Nervy times, I'm sure, for the pair of them. It's been an interesting one, that is for sure. Not often that you get one of these mega smashed up LCQs. Ignore the fact that Lindsay Hobbs has just jumped to the top of the timesheet. That's because they've had an issue here on the final lap of the race. In VR, through the Joker and on the bumps. Josh Edmondson stays out of trouble in the sole LCQ. He'll line up in 7th come the main event. Drag race behind him. Matthew Lindy holds off Jukka Pakila. But my word, how many cars are actually going to end up being classified at the end?
I'm a little bit intrigued on that too, because I think, yes, Peterson did get the final spot, but a lot of drivers had a hard time just not stepping on each other.
At least they had a little less chaos through turn 1 than maybe I expected. I think that's the only thing to say. Here's a look at the results, though, where again it is Edmondson that wins and advances along with Lindy, Pakila, Blanche, Winkler, and Peterson. Unfortunately for Stead Miller, Lindsay Hobbs, Rennie Wegner, and Robbie Kirtley. They 3 of those drivers not scored on the lead lap. All of them, though, watching from the sidelines. And now, as we get ready to go in the main event, 10 laps of racing action, and we'll throw 12 drivers onto the track. Is it going to be as chaotic as the LCQ? Stick around on RaceSpotTV to find out. Well, welcome back to RaceSpotTV as we get ready to go for the main event. 12 drivers now getting strapped into their cars for 10 laps of racing action here at one of the longest laps of our season. It's got the heaviest braking zone down into turn number 1. Haven't seen as much chaos as maybe has been expected, but my name is Arjuna Kankipati, joined alongside by Justin Prince, and we are very excited about what lies in store. As mentioned, drivers getting strapped in. They're getting gridded up now as well. Let's take you trackside and take you down to the main event starting grid. Jacob Rafos, the championship leader, trying to get it wrapped up here with a week to go, will be alongside Joni Palaneva. Evan McFarlane, second in points. Third on track is alongside Kieran Leiflander, with Josh Fox finding his way back from no qualifying time to an automatic spot in the main event alongside of Istvan Tits. Everyone else came through the LCQs with Josh Edmondson, Matthew Lindy, Jukka Pakila, Zach Blanche, Sean Winkler, and Russell Peterson, the 12 cars that will do battle. JP, it's been interesting so far, I think, to say the very least. What are we expecting up front, especially knowing that Rafos can wrap up the championship in some ways, everyone else just wanting to grab a victory?
Quite simply, I'm expecting Rafos to have a rocket ship. It's just a matter of how Fox tames it.
Here we go, with 10 laps onto the board. RX1 is unleashed at Brands Hatch for its main event. Rafos matched on the start by Palaneva, challenged around the outside. The no control machine though has to then slot back into line. Behind, Fox challenging to try and get up into third, but Kieran Leiflander holds on at least momentarily. Up towards Druids, Williams Esports Machine now on the inside. Evan McFarlane going quite tentative on the start and now very sideways. He's going to lose out, almost slides off of the jump and drops down into what is 5th position.
Not the greatest of launches for McFarlane, but not a shocking launch for Fox. He ran so quick, Arjun, in the first corners that Fox nearly grip rolled from the amount of apex speed that 12 car has. That car, oh no.
Evan McFarlane, I think JP with a slowdown has dropped to the very back. Does he have a black flag though, is the question.
No black flag, but he did get pin bond and he just hit the wall again. So I think something may be broken from that hit.
I wonder if that effectively is now the championship done and dusted, regardless effectively of where Jacob Rafos finishes. We'll take a look at the replay, I think, in a few moments' time. No one jokering first time by, but back up towards Druids, on to the second lap of the race, all with a championship story to talk about. Here's a look at the replay, JP, as he bounces off of Kieran Leiflander.
Yeah, that was self-inflicted. Then there's the slowdown possibility you mentioned right there. Has to lift off the gas, because if you don't serve it within a certain amount of time, as stated in the sim, black flag, and well, you can't clear that here. So he takes the slowdown, drops him to dead last, and then, as he aggressively has to do it to avoid getting black flag, Russell Peterson just so happens to be trying to clear on by him, misses the apex, goes right into the fender, and McFarlane gets sent to the tires for good measure.
It's why we talk about consistency and trying to stay out of trouble. Josh Fox, I think at this point, Joni Palaneva has won this race for Jacob Rafos, because otherwise, I don't think there's any stopping Josh Fox up towards Druids. He's still not alongside, and this is where that grip strip on the outside just gives Palaneva the chance to try and roll his speed through. That's why Fox gets the elbows out. That's a WWE style move, and moving his way on forward. Fox goes forward, Pakula slides through too. Can Joni Palaneva hold on as he works up the inside?
Honestly, I like the move from Fox there. Just quite simply, small tap, no dirty send, no dirty hard contact, no quick left hand to cause contact. Just give a tiny bit of a bump, force them off the gas, get the pass done. That's the type of clean but also aggressive racing that some people like to see. A lot of jokers there taking though mid-pack.
And that is an interesting call this early in the race. We still are only on the 4th lap, very, very deep into the braking zone goes Jukka Pakula. Josh Fox now 3 seconds off of your leader. Oh, and Pakula probably will get a slowdown as a result of that. Here comes Palaneva up the inside. Josh Edmondson sitting there thinking, let me have a piece of the pie. Bit of contact on corner exit, and side by side in front of him over the jump.
And Edmondson at the start of the day looked to be solid flow, solid rhythm. Now he's absolutely getting outright held up here with that bump to Pakula, and Pakula didn't appreciate it.
Oh, and watch the rejoin. At least Josh able to spin the car around and rejoin in a safe fashion to the final corner, though back to this fight. Oh, Jukka Pakula gets sent wide this time by Kieran Leiflander. Race control going to be quite busy at the conclusion of this race, and such was that fighting. I think Joni Palaneva has been able to joker without dropping any spots.
I almost want to take an outside look at what happened there compared to the in-car, because the in-car, at least if you're Edmondson in VR, you think you just got turned. But remember, that section has been a bottleneck in the middle sector all day. Just watch this once again in terms of some of these bottlenecks just start to build up in the midst of the pack. Once you get down the hillside, you see side by side, got to sort things out. Hard contact initially that damaged Pakula and caused that check of effect with Leiflander. But one thing got settled in. Edmondson gets the diamond, and right there, gets the cut inside. And then it gets really aggressive after that point. I believe this is the lap before what we're talking about more so, but it could have been much, much worse. It could have been Edmondson flipped upside down.
Yeah, that was the move again where Josh Fox made his very, very brave pass just to try and build his advantage and build the advantage he has. Has not jokered yet, though. Wonder if he's just saving that. The next lap by was when we saw the issue for Edmondson. Just see him get to the inside.
Yeah,
the problem
right
was...
there. Yeah, Pakala was already side by side with a teammate. See the door Edmondson poked in. And from at least what I could tell there, it was already a tight apex line in the first place from Pakala. He just stayed committed to it, even with Edmondson alongside.
So we're halfway through this race, 5 laps down, 5 to go, will be 4 at the line. 4 seconds the margin up front for Jacob Rafos, who is on his way to what will be yet another Racecraft Rallycross crown, at least provisionally. Race Control, probably not much to say about his wheel-to-wheel battling today, mainly because there hasn't been any of it to really speak of. It's all the decision behind that they'll probably have to work their way through. Everyone having jokered though, JP. It means final spot on the podium up for grabs behind Joni Palaneva.
Yeah, for Palaneva, that's been extremely quiet today. Just running his own race, running the tempo. Lifelander, though, he likes to be the life of the aggressiveness sometimes. Good measure. Hello, 20 car. I see you're here for your diving.
A bit of contact between them, but there has been drama up front. What has happened to Jacob Rafos out through Graham Hill Bend? The Nitro Circus sim racing machine has given up the race lead, and now Williams Esports, Josh Fox, may be on for back-to-back race victories. Look at the replay, all by himself, and it's, don't tell me, a self-inflicted mistake with no major drama.
Just wow is all I can say. Just too hard into the corner entry, got the rotation point wrong. A rare mistake for your championship leader.
Rare mistake indeed, and now as he just carves his way down the hill, everyone has jokered. 3 laps to go. Can you believe this? Could you have imagined telling Josh Fox at the end of qualifying, JP, that you'll be winning this race if he can hold on for the next 2 laps?
Yeah, I think at this point, Fox has the best car by far. Having what just happened to Rafos definitely helps a lot. I don't think he was going to catch him because of how much time was lost in the first couple laps. But look at the delta just on viewpoint in the eye test. He's gaining a 10th a corner. This is a rocket ship that has borrowed all the rockets from Rafos and said, these are my rockets now. Maybe Williams Esports will give him the paint scheme now.
One by one, we're seeing more and more issues resulting in retirements. Let's check out a couple of the replays. It's just Istavan sits in the engine blowing for him as well, so that's why he's ended up having to come back towards pit lane. What's happened to Matthew Lindy in the KES Industries car? Of course, the defending RX2 champion, just very committed. He's got Edmondson sliding up into him, and then the two come to blows.
Yeah, a lot of chippy action to close it out here. But coming up to the white flag this time, getting back to Fox. This has been an absolute monster of a car. It almost looks like something he's trying to test to see World Championship races. Guess what? You found your long run speed, 1 to go, and you're a second quicker a lap.
And maybe back-to-back wins could convince the team at Williams Esports that we need a Subaru STI livery stat. Joni Palaneva, Kieran Lifelander are going to fight amongst one another, JP, for the final step on the podium. Going to be very close between them, and they've been argy-bargy so far today.
Oh, and that's going to break up the argy-barginess. That's going to be a slowdown. That's going to throw the 20 out of it. He's still being aggressive here and still has to serve a slowdown.
Finally got the memo, though, backs out of it and allows Joni Palaneva to hold on to what will be the final spot on the podium. No Control going to leave Brands Hatch feeling very, very happy, not just with the performance, but the performance delivered by the amount of practice brought to this week. Front of the field, though, what drama. Josh Fox couldn't get a lap in qualifying, has to fight his way through his heat, and then fights his way to the front, courtesy of a rare mistake from Jacob Rafos, but it's Fox back-to-back winner in Racecraft RX1.
Yeah, that is the best car I think Fox has had all season, and he knows it. Whatever he found in this car for today, put it in the car every race onward, because if he's got speed for the finale, let alone the World Championships, that car is going to be untouchable.
And again, it is still very much provisional at this point. Wait for the word from potentially those from up above, but I think that Jacob Rafos, courtesy of this, even with that mistake, has done enough to be crowned our provisional champion here today. Donuts going on there from your race winner, joined now in as well by Josh Edmondson, it would seem. So clearly still plenty to celebrate, as Fox will come and chat with us in a handful of moments' time. Another win for him in that number 12 machine, and then Jacob Rafos for the Nitro Circus Sim Racing crew ends up a full 5 seconds back, only though in time. Not though really a big discrepancy for points. Yoni Palaneva holds on to the final step on the podium in his no-control entry, while Kieran Leiflander, that slow down on the final lap, he'll feel quite cruel but self-inflicted mistake in pushing too hard. Zach Blanche, Sean Winkler, Yuka Pakala, Evan McFarlane, Russell Peterson, and Josh Edmondson. The rest of the top 10, all the cars that also finished on the lead lap, because Matthew Lindy is down in 11th, 3 laps down, and Istvan Tits in his number 22 entry, the AMRT machine, is down in 12th, 4 laps adrift. It's been a fun one, JP. I will say, less chaos than I was expecting into the opening corner, but as we wait for the drivers to come and catch up with us, the RX1 Championship might now be determined. It means we go off to Sonoma with just everyone looking to try and come out on top.
And I think right now, with Josh showing the speed, I think it sends a statement for later in the year. But for Rafos, he's just had the overall consistency. I think, again, it's just a matter of keep it clean if you're Rafos. Just get the laps logged in Sonoma. Because tonight was a really strong action point to say, you got to be able to drive past me, and most people can.
Let's go and catch up with our race winner, Pennsylvania's own, and the Williams Esports driver, Josh Fox, who jumps into the broadcast booth to chat with us now. Josh, must feel good to be winning once again here in Racecraft Rallycross. Yes, maybe a slightly unexpected mistake from Jacob, but I don't think this is what you would have expected after how qualifying ended up going. Talk us through what happened there.
No, not at all. Very unexpected day from start to finish. I had a very strange glitch on one of my laps in qualifying. It was invalid, and I didn't have enough time to actually set a lap. It was very strange, but I think we definitely made the most of the starts and making the most of the positioning to move forward quickly and not fall too far behind. And yeah, some good battling there early in the main event, and I was, already a few seconds back at Jacob, but yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a mistake like that from him. So don't like to see it, really don't like to win that way, but for 2 in a row, got to take it.
And what are your thoughts about heading off to Sonoma in a week's time? It's one of those tracks where, I always look at how you guys race, and I'm just in awe of how much you're in control of the car while sliding, battling wheel to wheel. His championship is basically mostly wrapped up, so are you going to be out there trying to really take the challenge to him, try and make it 3 in a row?
Yeah, you said it. That's it. That's all I'm thinking. It's a good place to go make it 3 in a row, close out the year.
Like the sound of that. Josh, congratulations on the win. See you in a week's time over at Sonoma.
Thank you very much, and I know once again missing the Williams and partners on track today, but definitely appreciate the support and have to shout out, of course, Williams Esports and all the partners: Komatsu, Duracell, Gulf Oil, MyProtein, Chill Blast, BenQ, Fanatec, Playseat, Recaro, and Heising Bell Pedals. And thanks again.
Look at the professional Josh Fox actually managing to remember all of those sponsors. Let's go chat, though, with Jacob Rafos, who joins us now in the commentary booth. Jacob, a rare mistake from you, but even through all of that, you hold now a 27-point championship lead going into the final round. That basically means you just need to score 2 points and the championship would be yours. How are you feeling heading into the final race, even with that rare and small mistake?
Yeah, I mean, I did... From lap 1, I did a mistake, hit that inside wall and got wheel damage. Then I did it again and got even worse wheel damage, and then I spun in going up the hill there. But I mean, yeah, Josh Fox was catching me because of that. And I mean, yeah, I know I could have probably won here, and if I won, I think I would be locked in. But I mean, yeah, we can probably do it next week.
Yeah, I think if you qualify 5th, at that point the championship would be kind of locked up. So it's not much that you're going to have to do. Let's talk, though, about the Sonoma, what lies ahead, because the bowling alley, the start, we were talking a little bit in RX2 about how the championship battlers were going to try and stay clean and focus on the start. Talk us through your experience at Sonoma and trying to stay out of trouble.
I mean, I've always been good at Sonoma. It's probably my best, one of my best tracks, because I got podium there in the World Championship. So, I mean, yeah, we're going into there pretty good, and yeah, for sure we're gonna try to stay out of contact and not do too much mistakes.
Congratulations on second, one hand on the championship, Jacob, and we'll see you in a week's time at the season finale.
Thank you.
Jacob Rafoss joins us for a quick chat, and always great to be able to chat with someone new. And for the first time, I think on RaceSpotTV, we're joined by Joni Palaneva, third at the end of the day here at Brands Hatch. Joni, talk us through that one. How are you feeling? Seemed like quite stressful fighting up and down through the field.
It was very like, but against Kiara, I get steering damage when we contacted in the box. But it was very good race.
Talk to me a little bit about No Control and your preparation as a whole. We saw 1 and 2 in the RX2 class. We saw Robbie Kirtley get some impressive starts in his No Control machine as well. How much practice did you guys do that got you guys set for the racing here today?
I take practice every day. Some tracks I take go play 100 and some tracks even more.
Congratulations, Joni, on this podium. Best of luck for next week, the season finale for the entire of the No Control team.
Thanks.
Always great, again, to chat to someone new on RaceSpotTV, and hopefully next week, JP, we get to do it a little bit more, because I think effectively RX1 championships decided. RX2, it's still wide open, and I think we might end up seeing some new faces at the top step of the podium on May the 5th.
Yeah, especially with it being the finale, a chance to bring on some closing out speed, but better yet, just an intense racetrack as a whole. You see that move to the carousel, for example, that motion's going to cause a lot of troubles for some drivers. Already have talked about a lot of the troubles and what's essentially the shorter portion of Sonoma for the stock cars right here, for example. This racetrack is going to be extremely challenging, to say the least, to close it out.
That's the merge back onto the tarmac as well. It's an uphill right-hander. You've got to be careful not to slide too far out wide, and then onto the brakes. It's a fascinating track, and it's got one of those fun jokers as well, which you cannot take on the initial race start. You have to make sure that you remember that. Look at the schedule, though, because, JP, this has been a quick season for Racecraft Rallycross powered by Next Level Racing. Started on March the 24th, will end on May the 5th, and you know, it's flown on past. It's crazy to think that these drivers have only had one sole week off.
Yeah, it's only been about a month and a half sprint to be able to get through, but it's been one that's kind of been very, very knowledgeable in terms of what to expect from the viewpoints onward. I'm curious how this plays out the rest of the way, Arjuna, for Sonoma, and it's going to be a true test as well for what we talked about for the summertime, for when the World Championship swing gets into full effect.
Well, not sure what happens there, but I know for sure we'll have the Pro 2 Racecraft trucks here on RaceSpotTV. We've been joined as well by more dirt racing, and you'll see a handful of these drivers now on Wednesday nights for the iRacing Short Course National Series, so plenty more slinging of the dirt to come. But that's it for now. It's time for us to wrap things up from Brands Hatch, cross back across the pond, and get ready to go from wine country to spray the sparkling wine. For the team behind the scenes, Justin Prince alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, thank you so much for joining us. Can't wait to see you in a week's time to crown our Racecraft Rallycross powered by Next Level Racing champions.